1. The empty kitchen table. There's a special kind of quiet that fills a house when you're the only one in it. Not peaceful exactly, more like the hush that follows something beautiful after it's gone. Every morning I pour my coffee and sit at the kitchen table, and across from me is that same empty chair. I still use the mug she gave me on our 15th anniversary. Plain white, with a little chip on the handle and a red heart she painted on the bottom, just for fun. It's the kind of thing that makes me smile and ache at the same time. The toast smells the same, the breeze still comes through the screen door, and the birds still gather outside like they always have. But something's missing. And it's not just her. It's the rhythm of sharing a day with someone. The laughter, the small talk, the touch of a hand as you pass the butter. When you're old and alone, mornings can feel like a reminder of everything you've lost. But I've learned they can also be a beginning, a chance to choose something different, something kind. You don't have to let the loneliness in and let it sit with you all day. There are gentle ways to fill the space. It starts with the first moment you open your eyes, the first breath, the first cup of coffee. That's where the day begins, and where the healing can begin too. 2. A letter from the past. It happened on a rainy afternoon, the kind where the sky turns a soft gray and everything feels slower, quieter. I was digging through the old bookshelf in the hallway, looking for a recipe she used to make, her chicken pot pie, the one with too much time and just the right amount of love. Tucked inside the back of the cookbook was something I hadn't seen in years, a letter. Folded in thirds, neatly, like she always did. Her handwriting stopped me cold. Even before I opened it, I knew it was going to hurt in the best kind of way. It wasn't just any note, not the kind she used to leave on grocery lists or taped to the bathroom mirror. This one was different. The envelope just said, "For you when you need it most." No date, no occasion, just those words, as if she somehow knew I'd stumble on it when my heart felt too quiet, too empty. The letter was full of her way of talking, her humor, her kindness. She wrote about little things, how she hoped I still kept the bird feeders full, how I should remember to wear my slippers on cold mornings, and how she always loved the way I whistled without realizing it. Then she wrote something that I think about every day now. If you're reading this, you're probably feeling lonely, but darling, you're not alone. I'm in every corner of this house. I'm the breeze at the window. I'm the hum of the kettle. I'm the thought that crosses your mind when you smile for no reason. I sat there for a long while, the letter shaking in my hands. I don't remember when the tears started, but I know I didn't try to stop them. It wasn't sadness, not exactly. It was more like finding a warm blanket in the cold. Her words wrapped around me, made the house feel less hollow. Since then, I've kept that letter on my nightstand. I read it sometimes before bed, or when the day feels too quiet, like the silence might swallow me. It's not magic, it doesn't fix everything, but it reminds me of something important. Love doesn't vanish when a person does. It lingers quietly. You just have to pause long enough to feel it. 3. A walk through the neighborhood. Every morning just after breakfast, I tie my shoes, same worn-out pair with the frayed laces, and head out for a walk. I don't go far, just around the block, maybe 2 if I'm feeling ambitious. It's not about exercise, really. It's about movement, about reminding myself that the world still spins, and I'm still part of it. The sidewalk remembers me, I think. I've walked it in every season, kicked golden leaves in the fall, crunched through snow in the winter, and stopped to admire the tulips in spring. There's a rhythm to it, the creak of the gate, the way the neighbor's wind chimes start singing just as I pass by my. Familiarity has its own kind of comfort. Most mornings I see Mrs. Reynolds trimming her rose bushes. She always waves, though we rarely speak more than a few words. "Beautiful morning," she'll say, even if it's cloudy. I've come to appreciate those small exchanges. They're like breadcrumbs reminding me I still exist to someone, even if it's just in passing. There's a little boy who rides his bike up and down the street, helmet too big, wobbling like he's made of jelly. He always gives me a big wave and a "Hi, mister," like I'm a landmark in his tiny world. I wave back and sometimes I pretend he's one of mine from years ago. It's funny how children don't need to know your story to offer you a bit of joy. And then there's the dog. Big golden thing, always pulling his owner along like he's in a hurry to find the end of the earth. That dog's made me laugh more times than I can count. His tail wags like it's powered by sunlight. There's something healing about walking a path that knows your steps. It reminds you that time keeps moving, and so can you. Even when everything else feels still, even when the house feels too quiet. Some days I bring a piece of bread for the birds. Other days, I just stand by the bench near the park and let the morning wrap around me. I breathe deeper. I watch. I listen. And for a little while, I don't feel so alone. Because out there among the trees and the sidewalk, cracks and the distant hum of lawnmowers, I remember I'm still here, still walking. 4. Talking to strangers and meaning it. I used to think small talk was just filler, something people said to pass time while waiting for the real conversation to begin. But these days, I've come to believe it might just be the most honest part of our days. Because when you're older and alone, a good morning from a stranger can feel like a handshake from the universe reminding you that you're still seen. It started at the grocery store, actually. I was standing in the canned soup aisle, trying to remember whether I still liked the tomato basil kind, when a woman beside me laughed. She said, "You look like you're deciding on a new car, not soup." I smiled, genuinely smiled, and replied, "Well, I plan to invest in something I can enjoy at least twice this week." We both laughed. It wasn't long, maybe a minute or two, but it stayed with me all day. Then it happened again, at the post office. A man behind me, probably in his 60s, joked about the line moving slower than molasses in January. I turned and said, "I don't mind, gives me time to practice my patience." We ended up chatting until we reached the counter. I never saw him again, but I walked out feeling lighter than when I walked in. That's the thing, you don't have to know someone's whole story to feel a connection. Sometimes it's just about noticing the people around you, asking the barista how her morning's going, complimenting a scarf or a hat, or the way someone chuckled at their own joke. These tiny gestures, they add up. They remind you that life still holds conversation, still holds laughter. Now, I make it a point to say something kind or silly to someone every day. Nothing big. A wave to the mailman, a nod to the crossing guard, even just a smile to a young mom wrangling her toddler in the parking lot. You'd be surprised how often people look up, surprised, and then smile back. It's like we're all waiting for permission to connect. Loneliness doesn't always need grand solutions. Sometimes it just needs eye contact, a warm word, a moment of shared humanity. And I've found that when I offer those things, they come back to me in ways I never expected. 5. The healing power of a cup of tea and an open window. There's something sacred about a cup of tea when you drink it alone, not rushed, not out of habit, just slowly, like each sip is a quiet conversation with yourself. I've made it a ritual now, sometime in the early afternoon. The kettle whistles softly. I choose a flavor that matches my mood, sometimes chamomile, sometimes mint, and I take it to the armchair by the window. I always crack the window open a bit, even if it's chilly. That bit of outside air, fresh and uninvited, changes the whole feel of the room. I can hear the rustle of leaves, the distant sound of kids playing down the street, the gentle whoosh of a car passing by. Life, still happening, just beyond the glass. It's in those moments that I remember how to simply be. No TV, no phone, just the sound of the wind and the warmth of the mug in my hands. I watch the light move across the floor, sometimes catching the dust dancing in the sunbeam like tiny spirits passing through. It's not lonely, not then. It's peaceful. I think when we're surrounded by people, we forget how to enjoy our own company. And when we're finally alone, we have to relearn it like a language we once spoke but haven't used in years. That's what tea by the window has taught me. How to sit with myself without needing to fix anything or fill the silence. Some days I talk to her, just little things. "You'd laugh at this breeze," I say when the curtains flutter. Or, You'd love this tea. It's the kind you always picked out but never finished. I don't expect a reply, but somehow those moments feel shared. Even on hard days, this small act, pouring the water, letting the leaves steep, opening the window just enough, grounds me. It's a reminder that even quiet can be nourishing, that not every silence is empty. Some are full of memory, of softness, of presence. If you ever find yourself overwhelmed by the stillness of your own home, try it. Make something warm. Sit near the window. Let the breeze touch your skin and remind you that the world hasn't gone anywhere. It's right there waiting to be noticed. 6. One phone call a day. It started as a promise I made to myself on one of those days when the house felt especially quiet. I remember sitting at the table, the phone nearby, and thinking there's someone I could call right now. Someone who might be glad to hear my voice, even if just for a few minutes. So I picked it up. I called my cousin Marlene, who I hadn't spoken to in almost a year. She was surprised. "Is everything okay?" she asked, a little breathless. I laughed and said, "I just wanted to hear a familiar voice." That turned into a 30-minute conversation about everything and nothing. Her new kitten, the old church choir, the weather in Michigan. When we hung up, I felt full. Not in the way food fills you, but in the way kindness does. Like I mattered again. That's when I decided, one call a day, just one. Not always long, not always deep, but always real. I keep a little notepad now with names written down. Friends I've lost touch with, a neighbor who moved away, my old fishing buddy from back in '78. Some days I don't even get to talk to anyone. I just leave a message. "Hey, it's me, just checking in. No rush to call back. I just wanted to say I was thinking of you." You'd be amazed how many people call back. There's something powerful about hearing your name in someone else's voice, about knowing someone took the time to reach out just because, not because they needed anything, just because they wanted to remind you that you're not forgotten. I think we all carry a quiet fear of being left behind, of fading into the background while the rest of the world moves on. But every time I make a call, I feel like I push back against that fear. Just a little. I say, "I'm still here and you are too, and we still matter." Some days the calls are short, a quick hello, a joke, a shared memory. Other days they run longer, and we lose track of time. But every day they give me something to look forward to, and maybe, just maybe, they give someone else the same. One phone call a day, it's such a small thing. But for me, it's become a lifeline, a thread that connects yesterday to today and me to the people who still remember the sound of my voice. 7. You're never truly alone. Last Thursday, just before sunset, I stood by the window with my tea, watching the light fade over the trees. The sky turned that soft peach color, the kind she used to call cotton candy dusk. I remember thinking this day was quiet, but it wasn't empty. That's how most days feel now, not loud, not crowded, but full, in their own gentle way. Full of tiny choices I've learned to make. Opening the window, tying my shoes, waving to a stranger, picking up the phone. None of them seem like much on their own, but together they make the kind of life I never imagined I'd still be able to build at this age, especially not alone. And here's the truth I've come to know. Being alone isn't the same as being lonely. Loneliness is a feeling that visits all of us now and then. But when you greet your days with intention, when you treat even the smallest acts like they matter, that feeling starts to loosen its grip. You begin to see beauty in places you used to overlook. The way the light shifts across the living room wall, the sound of the mail slipping through the slot, the warmth of a memory that catches you off guard and wraps around your heart like a soft scarf. You notice how kindness echoes, even the kind you give yourself. Some days I still ache. I still miss her laugh echoing through the kitchen, or the way we used to hold hands during the credits of a movie. I still wish my kids lived closer, or that someone would knock on the door just to say hi. But I've learned that even in those moments, I'm not truly alone. She's here in the quiet corners. My friends are out there waiting for a call. The world is still humming with life, and I'm part of it. So if you're sitting in your own quiet house, wondering if anyone sees you, hears you, remembers you, let me tell you something from one soul to another. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You still matter, and you are loved more than you know. And tomorrow, when the sun peeks through the window and the kettle starts to whistle, start again. Choose one small thing, a walk, a wave, a shalom, a cup of tea. These little things are not little at all. They're how we stay connected, how we stay human, how we stay happy.